And then one of the other questions I get a lot from returners is including side businesses, which I don't love the term side. Let me just get that out of the way, but I know it's common way to reference it. It wasn't a side business, it's a full, you had to contribute and make something happen while also assuming caretaking responsibilities, right? So you had a lot on your plate. It wasn't, if it's relevant to the target role, again, by focusing on identifying and communicating the transferable skills. All right. So now we're going to turn quickly. We have a couple of before and after slides to show you a bit about format and organization on a traditional chronological resume. And so I want to call your attention to that the sample slide on the before versus the after. The one on the left, I want you to think first just about format and organization. The after resume is a very standard typical resume format that a lot of recruiters see. I know it's the one, I actually helped my client write this resume, right? It is the standard format I use on every single client. And the reason I do that is because reading resumes for a living, our recruiter brains are trained to look for information in a particular order. And so if you just give them the order that they want, they're spending more time on reading your content, right? How you're compelling them to want to connect your skills and experience to that job opening they're trying to fill, right? And less time trying to find the information. So a standard resume format with a professional summary up top, skills section, followed by professional experience, volunteer or community involvement, and then finally education. So we only have the front page, but this is, again, the prime real estate is that top half or top third of the first page. So the one on the before, it has very similar content, but if I'm looking at this, I'm wondering the difference between what's a summary and what's a professional summary. I noticed as a recruiter, I would scroll to the bottom to look for certifications because I know those are very easy. I'm going to look for education and certifications at the bottom of the resume, right? That's a very common thing recruiters will go to the bottom of the resume for, to sort of check that off the minimum requirements. So don't use your prime real estate to do that because you're going to know that you could put it at the bottom and they'll look for that. So that first third of your resume, you need to compel them, connect them to your professional value and how you possess the skills and experience necessary to show up and do this job. So if we look at, oh, sorry, I don't have the slides. Christine has the slides. There we go. Sorry. So if we look at, I'm sorry.
Do you want to zoom in on one of these, Shannon?
No, I want to go back to the slide. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties. So let's skip the next slide and go to common formatting mistakes really quick.
Sure.
Then we'll go back to that one. So just quickly, because you all mentioned that you had a pretty good, according to the poll, you had a pretty good handle on formatting. That prime real estate, right? It's that top half to top third. Compel your reader to want to scroll down and learn more about your professional experience. Using poor organization, we address that. Not including enough white space. Stick to standard margins and fonts, okay? So a lot of times people think, oh, I'm going to stand out to the recruiter because I'm going to have a fancy template resume and it's going to be like cursive font and it's going to be on pink paper. I mean, when we used to have paper resumes, right? So I want you to focus less on all of that from how it looks and focus your energy on how it reads. If you want to stand out to a recruiter and hiring manager, then you clearly make the connection between your skills and experience and the job requirements. Focus your attention and energy on creating bullet points and that professional summary that nails that. Standard format and organization resume works wonders. And it's all about relevancy and customization, right? So the non-returnship doesn't address the gap. My particular client is currently working a volunteer role as a scrum master for a nonprofit. We've included that under her professional experience. And the recruiter asked, so tell me about this role or tell me why you're looking to leave this this is currently a part-time pro bono consulting role I have been involved in since December while I look to return to the workforce in a full-time role. And that's it, right? So while I've included the career break underneath, and included that volunteer experience upfront under professional experience because it's related. She's looking for technical project management or Scrum Master roles, right? If she was volunteering for, say, her local homeless shelter, for example, that might not be exactly relevant, but she'd want to convey a message about her personal values and her contributions to community. So then that would be a section below under community involvement or volunteer experience. But because this is directly related to the types of jobs, it's relevant, right? So it goes under the professional experience. On the right, the returnship, we call it out in the very first sentence. Looking to return to professional work after a 5-year career break. Then we identify it under the professional experience. It's the very first line. So those recruiters that are specifically recruiting for returnship see that she's had a 5-year career break. So it's not necessarily that involved. It's really more about just address it and then move on, right? Just the facts, ma'am.
Yeah, it's really about making it easy for the recruiter who's recruiting for a returnship to look at your resume quickly and see that you are qualified for a return to work program. I can't tell you how often we hear from recruiters at our partner companies saying, I can't tell if this person's been out on a break. Are they qualified for the returnship? So please, when you're applying for returnships, make it easy. Have a version of your resume that is for returnships.
I love that call out. So you bring up a good point. You're going to have versions of your resume. Right? Targeting it to the role. So you have to think in terms of returnships are a particular type of role. So absolutely make that as obvious as possible.
You will find some tips in here around the sentence structure and how you kind of phrase things on your resume. And this goes much more into the details about the bullet points on your resume.
Christine highlighted a really important component of your resume if we're talking about how we're going to connect our skills and experience to the roles and responsibilities of a target job that we're applying for. And so I want you to think back about when I said it wasn't about, your resume is not a list of your job description duties, right? It's really about, don't tell me what you did, tell me how you did it and what the impact was. So again, you don't want your recruiter to infer, oh, if they had this responsibility, it must mean they are able to do X, Y, Z. No, you're going to tell them. So results-oriented language simply means that every bullet point focuses on the actions that you took and the results you achieved. And so a lot of times you're gonna, when you do this work, you wanna try to quantify as much as possible, right? We're a data-driven society these days. So the more that you can quantify by the number of people you led, the number of projects you managed, the number of customers you served, the amount of revenue you generated or money you saved, percentage of sales, right? I have some job seekers that get stuck on that and they're like, I can't quantify every bullet point. That's okay. Again, you want to focus on the action and the results, and sometimes the action, depending on your level and type of role that you had in an organization, you might not see the direct quantifiable impact. But when you start to think about, your performance evaluation, feedback, what you hear from your results-oriented language, you are increasing your credibility because you're telling the reader how you accomplished your tasks and responsibilities. So you want to focus on creating credibility because what you're doing is you are compelling that reader to envision you in their role. Well, okay, if this candidate was able to achieve this in this role, I can see her being able to solve this problem we have, right? Yep. So you want to use as specific and compelling language as possible. You want to long hour, guys. Thanks for sticking in. But yeah, so essentially, just to sort of close this out, you want to, when you use results-oriented language, it's about what steps you took to complete the task, what tools that you used to do your work, and what did success look like? How were you measured by completing that task or that responsibility or that project? So
a handout that you'll get that shows kind of how you think about a task and how that translates to the result that you want to show in your resume. We've gotten a ton of questions and we have 5 minutes left, and so I want to get to a couple of them. One of the questions that has come up a ton today, almost a little